Hey, I'm Helena, and this is Swisspreneur Summaries, where I take your favorite Swisspreneur podcast episodes and compress them into snack-sized takeaways. Today, you're getting a private lesson in strategy from Elisabete Ramalho, industry lead at Google with over 20 years of experience in digital transformation, tech, consumer goods, manufacturing, basically everything you need to know about running a business under her belt. Now, Elisabete brings us so much value that we featured her in 2 of our Swisspreneur episodes, but today's summary is all about episode 205 and offers first-class guidance on how to be strategic when it comes to your competition, your focus, and your goals. But first, a quick intro to Elisabete. Let's go. Elisabete grew up as a dreamer. At just 6 years old, she told her parents of her dreams to move to America, the land of opportunity. Not actually even knowing where America was, except that it was across this giant body of water from her small hometown in Portugal. Elisabete claims that her maternal grandparents were a big inspiration for her. They ran a very successful bakery in Portugal in the 50s and taught her the value of working hard, continuously learning, and staying humble. And beyond inspiration, Elisabete talks about the early exposure she got through her grandparents, who knew the needs of every customer before they even walked into the door, to the core principles of business like personalization, precision targeting, and cross-selling. Now for Elisabete, strategy is all about the choices we make. And now that can be choosing from B2C, like a bakery, or B2B, or even how you market your product. But for Elisabete, the most important part of this early stage, where a lot of entrepreneurs are actually focused on building out their MVP, minimum viable product, is to determine your value proposition. What makes your product unique, and how is that going to stay unique across a business's lifetime and across many iterations of your product? Elisabete emphasizes that your offering should be something in which you or your team has a core competence, something that isn't already on the market, and something that's not going to get crushed by lower prices and bigger companies with a lot more resources. And that brings us to Elisabete's view on competition. Competition can actually be a good thing in that it means that there's a market for your product and a demand for it. It's a very promising indicator. However, you do have to bring something unique that will help you stay ahead of the rest. One way to kind of conceptualize this is to think about one of our last episodes with Julian Teike, where you see insurtech going up against traditional models of insurance. Though these companies have been around for decades, Julian believed that there was something really unique that they could bring, and they could be a lot more agile and a lot more innovative because of the nature of their company. Something we can take from that episode and this episode with Elisabete is, how do you remain strategic about your competition? Well, Elisabete says that you should, yes, be curious about what your competition is doing and kind of keep them in a field of sight. But remember, because they're over here, you have an inherent blind spot to what they're doing. You're best to put your efforts into focusing on your internal roadmap. Now, as a founder in the early stages, there's a lot going on, and it can be overwhelming at times to know, what are your priorities? Where do I focus my energy? Elisabete suggests choosing 3 priorities that are large enough to make an impact, but narrow enough to keep you on a steady path. Then, once you have those 3 priorities, ask yourself the following questions. What do you want to achieve? Who do you want to bring? Will you need to hire new personnel? Collaborate with other companies? Go alone? How much do you need in terms of resources? And what is the role of each player? Once you have the answer to those 4 questions, you can start to build out a plan. And here Elisabete mentions that although it's good to have a plan, it's even better to keep planning, and introduces the beautiful metaphor of a lighthouse. In some companies, this lighthouse might be a chief strategy officer or an operations manager, but quite simply put, the lighthouse is there to keep an overview of how the plan is running. Maybe you even need to do a 180 right in the middle of the plan. And the lighthouse is there to set off an alarm and communicate in a transparent way to everybody that we are off the trajectory. Elisabete warns that often people invest a lot of time and energy into a PowerPoint presentation with this very elaborate plan, and it never gets revisited again, and really encourages the use of this lighthouse as a monitoring system that keeps you safe in the stormy waters of entrepreneurship. One way that companies like to measure if they're still on track is by using KPIs, key performance indicators, and OKRs, objectives and key results. Because as we just learned, it's not planning alone, but it's the continuing of the plan and the execution of the plan that counts. When it comes to setting OKRs and KPIs, Elisabete encourages a co-creation process that starts with the founders and CEOs creating a high-level plan. From there, different teams and departments create their own set of OKRs based on that high-level plan. The co-creation element comes in various different ways. First, Elisabete suggests that founders and CEOs have a sparring partner when they are setting up their objectives. Someone who's going to challenge that big picture strategy, ask the tough questions, and perhaps offer insights on any blind spots that those founders might have. And from there, the co-creation continues. Using that key objective as a North Star, every individual is then able to build their own set of OKRs. Elisabete brings up an example of launching a product in a peripheral market. There'll be individuals over here, perhaps in a comms team, where they need to ensure that the product is available in the language of that market. So although their OKRs will look very different from that of the CEO or the sales team, it's all tying into that big picture target. And furthermore, as this is being all laid out, this team can say, we need this kind of a budget. Sales team can say, we need this, marketing needs this. And then that pushes its way back up to communicate what are the resources we're going to need to achieve these goals. And the more collaboratively this is done, the more you can really leverage the expertise of your people rather than just giving them a to-do list. And there's a big difference when it comes to enabling people to perform their best than just giving them tasks that maybe don't even suit their strengths, which has been a bit of a common theme when it comes to leadership across all Swisspreneur episodes. Sense of satisfaction in your work, sense of purpose, feeling like you can really make an impact can be a much more powerful motivator than any financial incentive. So leveraging that and getting the most out of your people is going to make a huge difference at the end of the day. Elisabete acknowledges that as your company evolves, your goals are likely to change and evolve as well, and that there might be points in time where you have to pivot. And that's totally okay. But she warns not to pivot too often, as sometimes that can break your business model. To hear more about the difference between being agile and relying on breaking things, listen to the full episode on streaming channels or at swisspreneur.org. Part 1 of the episode series with Elisabete covers leadership. And I'm curious, what is, in your opinion, the most important quality of a leader? Vision, fearlessness, ability to listen? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, let us know which episodes you'd like to see covered next. Until next time, whether you're at the bakery level or at Google level or somewhere in between, dream big and never stop learning.